Flavour packed, mega stacked. This is my rotisserie leg of lamb. If you haven't done a rotisserie cook-up on your queue, you need to try it today. This is my rotisserie lamb served up my way. Amazing. The most incredible thing about roasting on a rotisserie is that self-basting with the meat's juices and fats. So we're layering up the flavours with a delicious marinade on our lamb today. First ingredient has to be garlic. Incredible. Now that we've got our garlic sorted, I've gone in with some delicious spices and herbs. So my first one is fennel. Now fennel pairs perfectly with pork, but it actually goes really nicely with lamb too. You've got those beautiful aniseed flavors and it goes really nice with the sweetness of the lamb. So let's go in, we'll gently crush that. Don't completely grind it into a powder, we just want it lightly crushed. I'm really happy with that. Now the herbs that I'm moving on to, we've got oregano and rosemary, which are very classic to go in with our lamb. So this marinade is really herb and garlic focused. I'm bringing in the savory flavors with a delicious base. Also, we're leaning on the unctuous lamb that brings out all of that delicious fat and juice as it cooks. So last ingredients of this marinade is just salt, pepper and oil. This looks and smells delightful. Now onto our lamb. Today I'm using leg of lamb. You could use lamb shoulder, but I would recommend cooking that at a lower temperature for a longer amount of time, so about 4.5 hours. Leg of lamb is great because it only takes about 2 hours to become nice and tender. It's so easy starting this recipe with already boned out leg of lamb, but just check over the underside for any sinew, veins or bone fragments. So I'm just going to grab one of our roasts here. Check that underside. This is looking pretty good actually. Now what I want to do is just have about a 2 to 3 centimetre thickness so we can butterfly any parts that we think are thicker than that, and we want to infuse as much flavour in as possible. So this is a really great way to do that. And then from there we can portion it up into sizes appropriate to our fork. So we can use our tines here as a guide, so we don't want them any smaller than this section here. We want them overlapping a bit so that we can thread everything straight onto the fork. Okay, so now we can cut them into those portions, and it's all fine if this is a bit rough and ready because it creates those really gnarly variations on the outside of the roast. So just get straight in there, cut that up. And I love that there's this bit of fat cap on the outside too, so that kind of like builds in a layering fat system in there. Delicious. Beautiful. And then I'll just keep going with the other roasts. And that is the last of it. We've got 4 kilos of lamb there. Don't go any more than 4.5 kilos on the 3rd generation cues. Perfect amount for entertaining or a bit of cheeky meal prep. We are using our good mate Jamie Oliver's brand new plateware. It is absolutely stunning. You have to check it out and get some for yourself. Now let's get all that marinade flavouring our lamb. All right, let's get this straight on. I'm getting straight in there, giving this lamb some loving with a bit of a massage. You want to feel all those nooks and crannies. I did used to think it was granny, so I'm glad that someone's corrected me on that one. Look at that, yum. All right, now you could leave this to marinate for about 2 hours, but we're cooking it straight away today. This is one of the most fabulous accessories you can add onto your Weber Q, this rotisserie setup. Just go in with our shield. We can add in a convection tray, just to protect the underside of our roast from that direct heat. And then I've got a motor. We've got our Q all set up with the rotisserie stand on there, the motor in place. Now all I need to do is get this meat onto the rod. I can secure one of these forks on there, and then we can start threading that meat on. And just as you go through, just make sure that those starting points that you hit the meat straight over those tines. So try and spread it out as much as possible. Just make sure those bits get over the tines there. And compact this on as much as possible. And then our last one, thread that on. I like to have that fat cap on the outside so that renders away really nicely. That's usually my bit at the end of this. And then we can go on with our other fork. Now, before I go to tightening this part here, we just need to center it a little bit more. So loosen one side and then push that along so that our roast sits nice and neat in the very center. Look at that, this is ready to go straight on there. Now the barbecue is really hot, so I'm just going to go freshen up my hands and get some heat-proof gloves on. Our barbecue is preheated, so open this, turn this down and get our rod in place. Before you walk away from the barbecue, just check that it's fully doing a 360 spin. Make sure that we're turning all nice and pretty, which we are. Beautiful. So we'll close the lid, we'll leave that to cook for about 2 hours. I'm going to create a delicious savoury baste now. We'll baste it with our rosemary brush every half hour. To build up our basting flavours, I'm starting off with some lemon. Just going to zest these. We need about 2 tablespoons of zest. Beautiful, get that straight in there. This always adds a really nice lemon pop without adding too much liquid. So make sure you use the zest to get all that, whoa, flavour. We'll give that a quick roll, loosen it up, squash all those cells inside so we get all of our juices flowing. So we want to add 4 tablespoons of juice in there, which is probably about 2 full juicy lemons worth. Squeezing that in. So next I'm going in with some beef stock powder, and this is going to add that really nice savoury flavour, also a bit of added salt in there. So just sprinkle that in, mix as you go so we don't get any lumps. And then smoked paprika, a beautiful smoky flavour on the outside, but it also helps to build up that delicious gnarly crust. And the last component of this basting mix is using a rosemary brush. So I've literally just cut some off the hedge in the front garden. We're just tying that together to keep it all uniform. And then we'll baste our beautiful lamb rotisserie spit every half an hour just to help build up those flavours as it's cooking. It's going to be so yum. We're half an hour in, you can see how much flavour is happening under that lid. We're going to start layering it on with our basting mix. Time to keep basting this. You can start to see those gnarly bits forming. That beautiful outer crust and that fat bubbling, rendering away. It's smelling so freaking incredible. We've just hit the 2 hour mark. I've been basting our lamb every half an hour and it is looking and smelling incredible. It's time to check out the internal temperature. I've got my instant read thermometer. Let's have a look. You can see just how juicy it is. It's going to get even juicier when we leave it to rest for about 15 minutes. You could leave it up to half an hour. In that time, I'm going to get all my delicious goodies to go along with it. I've left these flavors pretty universal, so they're not too Mediterranean, not too Middle Eastern, that you can really style this dish how you like. I'm going Middle Eastern today, and I've made a beautiful labneh. We're going in with pomegranate molasses and some mint. This has been resting for 15 minutes. I've got a pool of delicious juice under here. It looks divine. I've got my labneh ready, mint's hiding away from the wind, and I've got my pomegranate on the go. Let's get carving and then we can serve this up. Yum. That's a winner. I've just finished cutting all this beautiful lamb. Now I'm going in with my labneh straight into the bowl. It's seriously so easy to make labneh. It's just Greek yogurt, a bit of salt, and then you strain it for a few hours in the fridge and you end up with this really nice thickened yogurt that then you can add lemon juice and garlic to. Spread that in. Amazing. Such a nice contrast of flavours. The nice cooling yogurt against the heavily savoury, unctuous lamb. You can get that straight in there in the middle. Now that I've stacked this high, I've cleared away the lamb board and I'm going in with my pomegranate molasses. If you haven't tried this before, get onto it. It's seriously the bomb. It's like a really tart, sticky, sweet syrup. Goes amazing with grilled meats. Time to get a tapping. I know there's all kinds of fancy ways that you can get these areoles out of the pomegranate, but this works just as well. As long as you're wearing an apron, this is so fine to do. Look at that. Yum. How good does that look? Last little touch. There's mint straight on there. You got the fresh pops of the mint, bringing all these flavors together. All this needs is some good friends, nice drink of wine, and you're in for a good night.